What are the proper powers of government? In order to clearly answer the question of what is government for, it is helpful to entertain a hypothetical scenario. Ezra Taft Benson taught, what powers properly belong to each and every person in the absence of and prior to the establishment of any organized governmental form? A hypothetical question? Yes, indeed. But it is a question which is vital to an understanding of the principles which underlie the proper function of government. In a primitive state, there is no doubt that each man would be justified in using force if necessary to defend himself against physical harm, against the theft of the fruits of his labor, and against enslavement by another. Indeed, the early pioneers found that a great deal of their time and energy was being spent defending themselves, their property, and their liberty. For man to prosper, he cannot afford to spend his time constantly guarding his family, his fields, and his property against attack and theft. So he joins together with his neighbors and hires a sheriff. At this moment, government is born. The individual citizens delegate to the sheriff their unquestionable right to protect themselves. The sheriff now does for them only what they had a right to do for themselves, nothing more. But suppose Pioneer A wants another horse for his wagon. He doesn't have the money to buy one, but since Pioneer B has an extra horse, he decides that he is entitled to share his neighbor's good fortune. Is he entitled to take his neighbor's horse? Obviously not. If his neighbor wishes to give it or lend it, that is another question. But so long as Pioneer B wishes to keep his property, Pioneer A has no just claim to it. If A has no proper power to take B's property, can he delegate any such power to the sheriff? No. Even if everyone in the community desires that B give his extra horse to A, they have no right, individually or collectively, to force him to do it. They cannot delegate a power they themselves do not have. What then is the proper function of government? What is government for? To put it very basically and fundamentally, the government exists to protect the rights of individuals. This is the reason God has ordained government, and this is according to the just and holy principles of His inspired Constitution. The government has no authority to act outside of the powers the people have delegated to it. Ezra Taft Benson remarked, the proper function of government is limited only to those spheres of activity within which the individual citizen has the right to act. By deriving its just powers from the governed, government becomes primarily a mechanism for defense against bodily harm, theft, and involuntary servitude. It cannot claim the power to redistribute the wealth, or force reluctant citizens to perform acts of charity against their will. The sole function of government is to protect life, liberty, and property, and anything more than this is usurpation and oppression.